Good morning. How are we doing today? My name is James Sweeney, aka SplitSuit. Welcome back to another video. And today we're going to run through a bluff hand from the Postflop workbook and show you how to set these problems up and do a complete example together. This is going to be page 243, 244, and 245. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. Alright, so starting with the prompt up above, with blinds at 501k in a tournament, the hijack open raises to 2.5k, and you defend from the big blind with your queen 10 suited. You check the flop. So the flop is 9-4 deuce with a flush draw up there, and let's just throw everything into Flopzilla now. So queen 10 of clubs, 9 of spades, 4 of hearts, deuce of hearts, and we're copy their range right out of the answer key. So page 243, copy that, and paste it in. Easy peasy. Excellent. So question number 1, how often will you improve to either top pair or an open-ended straight draw on the turn? So there are 3 remaining 10s left in the deck to give us top pair. There are 3 remaining queens that if that hits, that also gives us top pair on the turn. So 6 cards so far. And how many cards give us an open-ended straight draw? A jack does. There are 4 of those left in the deck. So 4 plus the 3 plus the 3 gets us 10. So if we pull out the simple calculator, there are 47 unseen cards going into the next one. 10 of them are hitting the qualifier we just set out, so 21. 21% of the time. Excellent. If the hijack would only c-bet with any pair or better flush draws and all backdoor flush draws, how often are they checking behind on this flop? All right, so in Flopzilla, let's just plug in everything. So we think they're going to c-bet with every single pair, so bottom pair or better, make all that blue. And also flush draws, okay. And also all backdoor flush draws. So 2 card backdoor flush draw, 1 card backdoor flush draw, 1 card backdoor flush draw. And here we are. And we see that they are c-betting 70% of the time, which means that they are checking behind the inverse of that, so 30%. Excellent. And number 3, if the hijack only c-bets with all pairs or better flush draws and all backdoor flush draws, again, what we just did in number 2, how much equity does your queen 10 have against their betting range? So if we're in here, right now the equity over here, because we're in red, is saying we have 26% equity against their entire range right this moment. But how much do we have against what we just filtered? We have to click this, turn it green, and then we see our equity right now is 24% against their betting range. Perfect. And let's check the answer key real quick, make sure we're on the right track. So for page 243, number 1, 21% of the time, great. Number 2, 30, and number 3, 24% equity. Excellent. Did everything right. Now let's jump over to page 244 and get started. All right, so starting with the prompt up above, the hijack checks behind on the flop, so they check back, and you opt to bet the turn for 2.5k into a 5.5k pot after the board boards. I think that's supposed to say after the board pairs. Good typo, James. All right, so in this situation, let's just start throwing everything extra into Flopzilla. So 9 of hearts on the turn. We're going to grab their range right out of the answer key. So page 244, copy that, and paste it in, enter, and we're good. And just in case you're ever going street to street and you're like, what's going on here? Make sure you don't have anything set earlier in the hand, right? So there we accidentally had the flop still filtered, which means that everything was not showing properly. So make sure everything is set to red when you first start a street, unless you're, filtering for a specific reason. All right, so everything's good so far. So number 1, how often does the hijack have a pair or better here? So untick all the draws, and we're just going to say bottom pair plus. And how often do they have that? 25% of the time. Perfect. Number 2, if the hijack would continue with any pair or better and any flush draw, is your bet auto-profitable here? All right, so let's also throw in flush draws. And just for the record, when you select the major flush draw, it will select all of these lesser ones as well. So all of the subcategories of flush draws are selected right now: the nut, the second nut, third nut, and weak flush draws. So just in case you're looking at this and like, why didn't I select all those? Notice that doesn't change anything down below because everything's selected in the monster category. Perfect. So right now we see that they are continuing all the blue combinations, so 61% of the time, thus folding 39%. And what is the break-even percentage of our bet right this moment? Can use the break-even tool for this you should know this off the top of your head, but if you don't, that's okay. We're going to run through it one time. So the current pot is 5,500. The current bet size is 2,500. So 31% break-even. You think you're getting 39% folds. If the folds is higher than the break-even percentage, then it is auto-profitable. In this case, 39 is higher than 31, and as such, yes. And then number 3, how often will the river put up a fourth heart? Okay, so using the simple calculator for the next card, there are 46 unseen cards at this moment, and how many hearts are left in the deck? Well, there are 13 total. We see 3 of them, which means 10 qualifying cards, and that gets us to 22%. Perfect. And check the answer key real quick, make sure we're on the right track. So 25% of the time, yes, and 22% of the time for number 3. Perfect. Did all of that correct. Now let's flip over to the final page for this exercise and go from there. All right, so starting with the prompt up above, the hijack calls your turn bet. You opt to make a follow-up bet on the river for 6.5k into a 10.5k pot. So here's the setup. King of diamonds on the river. So let's throw that into Flopzilla. As always, our whole cards don't change. And we can grab the range for our opponent from the answer key, page 245, which we're currently on. I'm going to paste that in. Excellent. And here we are. So question 1, how often does the hijack have top pair or better here? So we actually already have top pair plus selected, and we see that that's 29.9% of the time, so 30%. Excellent. So question 2, what is the EV of this bet if the hijack continues with any pair or better and folds everything else? Well, we can automatically eyeball right here, like we're not beating top pair plus ever if our opponent calls with that. So we don't have to worry about equity in this situation. We actually just use the basic EV formula because anytime our opponent continues, we lose. Anytime they fold, we win. So the basic EV formula will do just fine. We're going to use that tool for this question. So what is the EV of this bet if the hijack continues with any pair or better, folds everything else? So just going to plug in a couple basic numbers. So when we win, how much do we win? The pot we're fighting for right this moment. So 10,500. When we lose our bet, which is that 6,500. Excellent. And now we just need percentage win and percentage L. And we think they're continuing with any pair better. So weak pair plus. And we think they're going to fold with ace high and the nothing combinations. And fold everything else. Okay, so we think they are continuing 61% of the time, which means they are folding that 39% of the time. So throw that right in there. Percentage win, 39%. Percentage L automatically calculates because 100% minus W equals L. Perfect. And here we are. So plus EV to the tune of $130, which is... Always slow down and look at this and really think about what that looks like contextually, because a lot of people just look at this and say, yeah, it's profitable, cool. And if you only play cash and don't really play much in terms of tournaments, you might say, hey, plus 130 is pretty great. But plus 130 here is like functionally break even because we're talking about a pot of 10.5. We're looking at a bet of 6.5k. So 130 is like just slightly positive. So keep that in mind. It's important to kind of keep that in the back of your head. All right, so question number 3, which is higher EV? Betting 6.5k and only getting action from top pair or better, or betting 14k and only getting action from an over pair or better in this situation? All right, so for this one, we have to do 2 different EV equations. So I'm going to just take this tool, open it up just a little bit wider so that way I can take some notes down here. So betting 6.5k and betting 14k, and obviously 14k is an overbet in this situation, so it's always good when you're doing off-table work to also explore other bet sizes. You might find spots where overbets are way more profitable than you might think, and this, again, a lot of this workbook is to force you to explore those spots that you probably wouldn't have otherwise explored, or maybe wouldn't have explored as often as you should be. So all that said, let's start hacking away with this. So first one, 6.5k, only getting action from top pair or better. So we're going to get rid of weak pair, get rid of pocket pairs below top pair, and pocket pairs below top card. So right now we only have top pair plus selected. That is 30%, which means we think they are folding, 70% in that situation. So all these numbers are still the exact same, right? What we're winning, still fighting for that 10.5k pot, is still the exact same. We're talking about a 6.5k bet, so that's still the money L. The only thing that changed here is percentage W and percentage L. And right now we're looking at a bet that is plus 5.5k. Okay, excellent. And what about betting 14k, but this time we only get action from an overpair or better? So that should mean more folding, and obviously it does if we assume top pair is going away. And we'll talk about that assumption in a moment, but let's just assume that's the case. They're only continuing with that, and as such, they're folding, 94% of the time? Okay, so that's how often we're winning the pot, and that is profitable to the tune of let's just call it 5k. So 14k is definitely going to be more profitable in this situation, and yeah, the main thing I want to talk about just in terms of the assumption. So don't worry if you disagree with assumptions right off the bat, right? Don't worry if you disagree with a range. Don't worry if you disagree with a continuance, right? Maybe you say, there's no way in heck anyone's folding top pair here. No one's ever going to fold a king. Okay, that's fine. Then you can always go back and say, okay, well, what if they did continue with, the king as well, and then run the math again that way? Obviously, if you're going to do that and you still have that 70% win, 30% they fold, 70% they're folding and 30% they're continuing with top pair plus. Well, if we're betting larger, you know what? We actually forgot to do one thing here. I'm glad I stopped. So what we didn't change when we just ran the numbers is we didn't change how much we're losing the times that we get called, right? So we're actually having to increase our money L to 14k. And it's still profitable, but now it's 9k instead of 9.5k. So 14k is still the more profitable bet, but, comparing the 6.5 to 14 with these assumptions. But this is always take your time. Always take your time with these. Don't rush through them. Sometimes you'll make that kind of mistake and get an answer wrong, and that's sometimes just where it happens. Just a data entry error, or you kind of went too fast like I did right there. So again, don't worry if you disagree with an assumption. You can always just run it the way the workbook lays it out first and then say, okay, I want to change something slightly. I want to say, okay, they're continuing wider or they're continuing tighter here. Maybe I disagree with this, or maybe players in my game don't really continue like this. That's totally okay. Use this as a jumping off point. Do it the way the workbook lays it out first, and then do it in any way that you want to explore it after that. And in doing this, yes, we explored two different sizes here. A lot of people will only ever explore a single size and probably a very, very basic one like exactly this, 6.5k. But ask yourself, what if you went just a little bit larger? What if you went a little bit smaller, right? Are you still getting the same amount of folds? Are they still folding ace high every single time? Are they still folding all of these nothing combinations? And if so, could this actually be a situation where you could bet 2.2k and still generate a lot of folds? You're only going to find this kind of stuff out by doing this kind of work and exploration. So take your time with it. Again, do it the workbook way first, and then go through and make any adjustments you want to. If you're like, hey, what does this look like with a different size or a different assumption or different hole cards for you, whatever it be. And that is going to wrap it up for this video. Thank you for watching. I really hope this helps set you up for getting the rest of this section correct. Again, take your time with it. You notice that if we go too fast, we're going to make mistakes. So slow it down. If you have any comments or questions, don't hesitate to let me know. Otherwise, good luck out there and happy grinding.